Somewhere on Earth is off to Brazil, the largest Latin American country, as vast as a continent. Far from Rio's famous beaches, there is another Brazil where the spirit of adventure and mystery still lingers on. Expedito and Raimundo are brothers. Their lives are inextricably linked to a legendary river, the Paraguaçu, and their boat, a Saveiro, that looks like it's straight out of a swashbuckling adventure book. They earn their living with this sailboat. The Nordeste, further north near the equator, is one of Brazil's poorest regions. The Lençóis do Maranhenses on the Atlantic coast is a bewitching sight. Only a few men live in this desert where time itself has evaporated, and the beauty of nature reigns supreme. Joio-san is right at home in the Lençóis. Roy was born near New York. He landed in Brazil about 30 years ago in the Chapada Diamantina. This history and archaeology enthusiast has become an ardent defender of a vast territory where he roams every day.
I found my spot in the world. It's, I think everyone should look and try to find it. Some people are lucky. I was lucky. I found it.
Brazil is the largest country of South America and the fifth largest of the planet. It's a land of paradox and contrast. Urban sprawls exist side by side with vast, unspoiled regions, still a far cry from the modern world. The forests and rivers are characteristic features of Brazil. When the Europeans discovered this new world, the majestic rivers were their gateways into the vast inland territories. The Paraguaçu is a legendary river. It empties into the Bay of Salvador, the country's third largest city in the state of Bahia on the Atlantic coast, 1,800 kilometers north of Rio. The Paraguaçu River is the home of the last Saveiros. These boats are a part of the country's traditions and culture. They even say that the soul of the Brazilian people hovers over Bahia, above All Saints Bay.
A gente não trabalha através do relógio. Aqui a gente trabalha através do vento.
We don't go by the clock here. We go by the wind. We know when we set sail, but we never know when we'll get back. That's up to God. We work with nature and the wind. We don't check our watches. The watch is just for the time we set sail.
Livre, nós somos livres.
We're free.
Liberdade total.
This is absolute freedom.
The Saveiros sail the calm waters of the Paraguaçu and the vast Bay of Salvador. These boats are not made for the open sea, so they always hug the coastline. The runs are short, but still can take several days depending on the winds, currents, and tides. The Saveiros ship all sorts of freight: sugarcane, fruit, crockery, sand. They may also carry passengers on the odd trip. For the past 15 years, Raimundo and Expedito have been doing the same run between the villages along the river and the city of Salvador. The two brothers are old hands at the Saveiros, And when they're not working their boat, they live on an island in the bay.
Eu prefiro até morar aqui, aí dentro.
I'd rather live on the boat than in Salvador. It's true, the city is beautiful from a distance, but a lot less when you get
Pra
closer.
mim é feio.
I like to see it from out here or on
Só de longe
TV.
na televisão.
The origin of the Saveiro is steeped in mystery. They say that the Portuguese brought sailors from India to train Brazilian shipbuilders. These flat-bottomed craft were perfectly adapted for sailing the rivers and close to the shore. For centuries, the Saveiros would ship the materials necessary for the construction of the villages and religious buildings, like the São Antonio Monastery built in the 17th century by French monks. The Franciscans established this mission on the river to convert the native populations. São Antonio is the country's second oldest Catholic church. When the monastery was being built, the Paraguaçu River was Brazil's major commercial artery. After a day of sailing, the Saveiro skippers moor their boats on the Ilha do Mare, the island of the sea, a little patch of land in the middle of the Bay of Salvador. The two brothers have to take on several hundred kilos of freshly cut bananas before the heat becomes too oppressive.
Essa aqui é procurada. Aqui é procurada porque é natural.
There's a big demand for this kind of
Aí
banana
faz uma vitamina, não precisa nem botar açúcar, porque
because it's natural, sweet,
é importante. Porque
very sweet.
nós pegamos o frete, porque
Banana shipping makes up a good part of our business.
nós leva em 15 dias.
Well, there's not very much else to
É
transport
meio
here.
até de sobrevivência.
Doesn't pay much,
Que é
but we
pouco
manage to do a lot with a very
compensa
little.
muito. Nós vamos
And
viver
thank
assim.
God, because this
E
is
aí não vem da agora.
how we
vem
get
desde o
along.
tempo dos meus avós. Desde uns 15 anos que eu viajo para aqui.
I know this river very well.
Devido ao tempo que eu
I've
viajo.
been making this trip for 15 years.
Sei onde é pedra, sei onde é
I
banco de
sailed this
areia,
river so many times
sei
with
que eu
my
posso
father
afundar
when I
o
was
barco,
little.
pegar na pedra,
I know it by heart.
sei tudo. Tem hora que
I know where the
o cara fica
rocks and
emocionado,
sandbars are.
devido ao tempo
I know
que o
where
cara
it's
tem aqui
safe to
dentro.
anchor.
Às vezes o cara passa a gostar.
Sometimes I'll think about all the time I've spent on this river. It really moves me.
Gosto de zelar.
I love
também
this
gosto de
boat.
viajar.
I love traveling,
Agora só
even if it doesn't bring in much money.
ganha muito pouco.
Times are tough for the Saveiros. Even though the country is enjoying an economic boom, it's harder and harder for them to compete with the trucking industry. On the Paraguaçu, the sailors' experience is handed down from one generation to the next. Raimundo and Expedito learned everything about their craft from their father. He taught them the ancestral sailing skills, but that's not all.
If a Savero skipper doesn't know how to cook, he doesn't eat. 3 days at sea, 3 days without food, we'd get home with an empty belly, shriveled up, starving.
Tonight is football night on the radio, and the Saveros are headed for Salvador, where they'll deliver the bananas. At dawn, the boat comes within sight of Salvador's skyscrapers, the world of the big city and the world of the sailors. Each goes its own way, ignoring the other. The little world of the Saveros lives on traditional beliefs and superstitions. Every time Expedito and Raimundo cross the bay, they place their fate in the hands of the goddess of the sea. The bananas are swallowed up by this remarkable bustling hive on Salvador's port, one of Latin America's largest covered markets. They don't stay very long, hardly an hour, just enough time to stock up on supplies. For Expedito, the less time spent in the city, the better.
Ainda tem choro ainda. Ainda tem choro.
Today, this 100-year-old boat is getting a second festive youth as a collective taxi. For over the past few days, the entire country has been gearing up for Carnival with its intoxicating rhythms.
Hello. I've got a problem with the mast. The last one wasn't very good either. This one isn't straight at all. It shifted, so it's tilted too far back, and the Savero is sluggish. The other mast had the same problem. It leant back.
Why didn't you come sooner?
Because we've got this problem with the mast.
If you'd come sooner, it'd already be fixed. It's nothing. You come in here on a Saturday, it's my day with the kids. It's bad timing. You know how we Brazilians are. We'll do it on Monday. I'll take the mast off, cut it, do it the way you want.
Meanwhile, they have to replace a faulty pulley, the only mechanical part of the boat. It's up at the top of the mast, at the top of a 12-meter tree trunk.
It's very dangerous. He's really brave to climb that mast. I'm not that brave. I'm not macho enough.
Just 2 shipyards in Brazil still build Saveros, and only about 10 of these boats are still sailing. Where the river meets the ocean is where the Saveros' fate is played out. Raimundo and Expedito live a simple life, following the whims of the wind, the current, and the sea.
Eu gosto do que faço.
I enjoy what I do. If you don't like what you do, it's not worth the effort.
Eu gosto do que faço aqui.
I really love my life.
É ruim no inverno.
It's harder in winter, but in summer, with a gentle breeze, it's just great. Such peace.
Oxe, a gente fica tranquilo.
The Saveros have remained unchanged for centuries. There are no blueprints to construct these boats. The secrets of the Saveros remain locked away in the memory of the rivermen. A strange land. It looks like a desert that the rains have not abandoned. In the Lençóis do Maranhenses, a mystical alchemy has blended everything together. This is a scorched landscape made up of ocean, wind, sand, and the fresh water of the lagoons. Joyason is 25 years old. He's treading the land of his childhood. He lives in a small town 2 days' walk from this spot, here where he was born. Whenever he can, he comes back to the Lençóis to visit his parents who live in this desert near the equator in Brazil's Nordeste region.
Eu gosto aqui mais porque eu fico com a liberdade, né, do que eu quero fazer.
Here I'm free.
E
In
em
town, you're
cidade,
not
a
really
gente não
free
tem
to do what
muita
you like.
liberdade do que a gente quer fazer, porque
Everyone has
cada
their
tem o
own
seu
little
lugarzinho.
space.
Então, quando eu chego aqui,
When I come here,
pra mim,
almost
a área
all of
quase
it is
toda é
mine.
nossa. Então eu faço o que eu quero.
It's like a dream
realizo
come
meu
true.
sonho, e
I'm at
fico
peace,
muito à vontade.
and that doesn't happen
Então,
in
em cidade
town.
a gente não fica muito à vontade.
Before, there was no one living here. In the 1950s, Joyason's family, fleeing a severe drought in the Sertão, an arid inland region of Brazil, decided to settle in an oasis in the Lençóis. To survive, Joyason's ancestors came to a desert where fresh water can be found just beneath the surface of the sand. Joyason is always glad to see his horse when he comes back. He named him Great Tiger, and he's an ideal mount for galloping across the dunes. In the rainy season, countless freshwater lagoons form on the surface. They're not a mirage like you'd find in other deserts the world over. They're very real. Lençóis means linen in Portuguese, and indeed, this white expanse looks like a sheet dried by the sun and buffeted by the wind. The rainy season has just begun. It lasts 6 months and completely transforms the landscape. The scorching heat and the influence of the ocean, the Lençóis suffer the effects of the weather. The lagoons are formed by water from aquifers lying just beneath the surface of the sand. This bounty of fresh water is the source of life in this arid environment. In just a few weeks, the plant and animal life reflourish in the Lençóis lagoons after lying dormant through months of drought.
Olha, essa é uma pininga.
It's a
É
paninga.
difícil a gente encontrar.
They're quite
Então,
scarce.
ela vive numa lagoa.
It lives in the lagoons,
6 meses
in the water for
em
6
lagoa,
months, and then it
6
burrows
meses
down into the
no
sand for
chão,
6 months.
enterrada. Então ela é muito privilegiada, ela está
It's
aqui
lucky to be
nessa
able to
lagoa.
live like that in the
E
lagoons.
sempre elas, a
I
gente
protect
eu
them
vou
from the
proteger ela,
predators.
e por causa dos animais.
I've always done that.
Então eu vou pegar ela no
I'm going to
caso
take
agora,
this
vou
one
botar
and
em
move
outra
it to a
lagoa,
deeper
porque
lagoon
eu
because I
tenho
think it's
certeza que ela
not doing
sente
too
muita
well here.
vontade. Então é isso.
How to grasp the dimensions of this bewitching land? In this vast desert, distances are measured in days. Joyason has learned to adapt to this environment where man-made time evaporates and one has to cling to life.
Eu nasci e me criei aqui na oásis chamada
was born
Baixa
here.
Grande, né? Então quando eu tinha
I grew up in the
7
Baixa
anos,
Grande
eu
oasis.
comecei a andar com meu pai.
When I was 7,
Então meu pai
I started going out with my
criava
father
animais,
to tend the livestock.
Então a gente passava 2,
We'd go out
3
into the
dias
Lençóis for 2-3 days
A
at a
gente fazia
time.
acampamento,
We'd
a gente
sleep
dormia
outside,
assim
no
no
tent
sol.
or anything.
As dunas, elas
The dunes would be
faz
our
uns
walls,
paredão,
our
E
shelter.
a gente dorme, faz
And
uma
to sleep, we'd
cama,
dig out a
começa
sort of
cavar,
bed in the
faz tipo uma
sand.
cama e aí dorme.
Joyason is on his way to visit his community on the vast beaches that border the desert. During the rainy season, fishermen set up temporary encampments on the shore. Fishing is the principal activity and the main source of revenue for these communities. It's a collective effort, everyone doing their part. Then they share out the catch among the families.
Tem muito peixe, a gente está pegando.
We got a lot of
Conseguimos pegar
fish.
muito mais,
And we're going to catch even more. It's not always like this. It depends on the season. Sometimes we don't catch anything. Today we'll get 20, 30 kilos, but sometimes you end up with no more than 5 or 6 fish in the net. It depends. We dry them and then we sell them. We could sell these in 2 days. It depends on the number of buyers. The fish we don't sell will allow us to get through the next 3 or 4 days before we go out fishing again. And that's how we manage.
Joyason's family lives here. In the dry season, they tend their flocks. The rest of the time, they farm and fish. The inhabitants of the Lençóis live almost completely on their own, cut off from the rest of the world in their 2 oases. Nature is not very generous here, but they do manage to grow vegetables and some fruit. In the rainy season, they harvest cashew nuts, which they then sell or barter in the neighboring villages.
The cashew harvest begins with the rainy season. But since the shell is very fragile, the rain can ruin the nuts. If water gets inside, the nut rots and it's no good anymore. Out of 50 kilos of cashew nuts, we sometimes end up with no more than 20 kilos that are good. The rest gets damaged by the rain.
Joyason grew up on this land, far from the bustling world, here where nature and beauty are so much more imposing than man. This landscape of shifting sand and water radiates a certain harmony. The Lençóis do Maranhenses are a haven where the inhabitants seem to be waiting for something. The Lençóis possess a fascinating allure, tinted with colors of a voyage in counterpoint to every other place on Earth.
I'm proud to live in and be part of this place. For me, it's a dream. It's the best place in the world, that's for sure. This is my place. It's wonderful. I'm going to stay here. I'm really happy. I'll never leave. I think I'll stay here forever.
The Chapada Diamantina, situated less than 500 kilometers from the Atlantic coast, is a land of mountains, canyons, and wide open spaces. In the late 1970s, Roy was 30 years old and living in the United States, dreaming of adventure. Then he discovered Brazil.
When I first came to the Chapada Diamantina, no one ever visited this place. There was no road up, no way to get here. And I said to myself, wow, I found it, this is the place. And it was just like love at first sight. I really didn't decide, it was decided for me. And the place just grabbed me. And I said, wow, yeah, I can handle that. I love it. So I just stayed. Just never even thought about leaving. It's just a great place. I found my spot in the world. I think everyone should look and try to find it. Some people are lucky. I was lucky. I found it.
In the mid-19th century, the Chapada Diamantina was the scene of an incredible diamond rush. Thousands of adventurers flocked here to try their luck. Roy is going to spend the night in the mountains, in an old diamond prospector's cabin. Roy fought intensely to protect the Chapada Diamantina. He campaigned for the region to be declared a natural reserve. Then in the 1980s, the Brazilian government decided to create a natural park. And since there has to be someone to manage it, Roy was quite naturally recruited for the job.
Yeah, I said, well, it sounded like a really great thing, and it was interesting. But basically, they just gave me a .38 gun and a badge and a Jeep, and said, "Go get them, make a park." So I was director and the guard and the secretary and the driver. Was everything in one. It was only me. So out in the middle of 1,500 square kilometers of park. So I was a prophet in the wilderness. I had been a professional student in the United States, going to college forever, and I burned out. And I just was working a bit in the United States, just traveling a bit there, but I didn't have any direction. I didn't have any idea what I really wanted to do. So I just kind of threw the dice in the air and just saw what came up, and it really changed my life. I expected to spend 2 or 3 years just doing something different, but it just totally, completely changed my life, and it just introduced me to a whole new country, a whole new culture, and a utility that I didn't have in the U.S. I can't even imagine what I'd be doing in the U.S. if I was there now, but here I have a function. I'm doing something that I feel is important.
Every day, Roy hikes the trails of these mountains that nourish the dreams of thousands of diamond hunters and adventurers. To repay this country for all it has given him, Roy has become an amateur historian.
Now just to show you, this is it's an old mining structure here. It was a corrida. They would put water down this ramp here. 90% of the work of a diamond mine here is bringing water to your claim, to your mine, because what diamond mining is separating a couple of milligrams of carbon crystals of diamonds from tons of sand and rock and mud and other things. And the only way you can do that is with water. So the mountains are full of aqueducts here, small ones, big ones, all over the place that bring the water from the river or collect it from rainfall and direct it toward their mines.
All those dreams of riches vanished along with the forests, but the forests will regrow. The precious gems swept along by the rivers are quite scarce now, and nature has reclaimed its own. The Chapada Diamantina has reverted to its wild state.
It is tea. It's organic material. It's not iron or anything like that. It's just the fallen leaves and trees and sticks from the vegetation that the rain just passes through them and picks up the color just like tea. It is tea.
Causar impacto na barraca. A filha da gata saindo da imagem. Todo tchau.
Roy has become a local personality. Thanks to his efforts, the Chapada Diamantina is once again a land of exploration, a paradise for hikers and people in search of wide open spaces. In the 1980s, you had to be slightly mad to settle in this old colonial town. Roy has founded a family here. He's become a Brazilian citizen, and he's committed to the protection of this land that has gradually become his own.
This was a town that was very isolated. Well, this whole area here. They had very little experience with they had experience with foreigners 100 years ago during the Diamond Era. But after that, all they really knew about Americans or European, or especially Americans, were what they saw in the movies. This was in the 70s, just spy films and things like that. So they naturally assumed that all Americans were spies. And they couldn't imagine, they really couldn't imagine anyone living here because they just thought it was a nice place. They would say to me, literally, they would say, well, what do you want to live here for? We just want to get out. And I said, well, it's beautiful here. And they go, there's something else here, something else.
Day after day, Roy puts pen to paper. He's drawing up maps to keep the memory of this land alive.
The idea is to put this down on paper before it's lost, to get their history remembered and permanent, whereas now it's very, It's very volatile. It's all in their heads, and like I say, this is the last generation of the old-time miners. So we either get this information down now, or it's lost forever.
Roy is now 62, and he still tirelessly hikes through the hills of the region. Today, Anicio, the oldest of the diamond hunters, is out walking with him. This old friend of Roy's is a precious witness, the living memory of the region.
What's the name of this stream?
Labón.
Why?
It comes from Domingo Labón. He came here with capangas, hired guns, outlaws, to kill João Cavalo. Not many people know about that.
These stories are in danger of disappearing.
My children don't know them. And my grandchildren don't want to know. They say it's ancient history, like me.
No, it's important.
I'm not washed up yet. I'm still lucid.
This is the last generation that lived in the mountains and really worked here and knew it intimately. So I'm just a scribe, but it's all depends on these guys. And the other half of my hobby is what I like to do is wander around the hills here and find all of the old ruins from the diamond mining. It's kind of like modern industrial archaeology.
I love my way of life. I love to strike out into the forest, sleep on the stone or in the branches, like the garimperos.
How old are you?
83.
83? How about that?
I'm not the man I used to be, but I can still get around.
Lá pra dentro tem quarto aí.
There's a chamber inside. You're sheltered in there. It's very big.
Mas lá dentro não mora de jeito nenhum. Olha aí. Tem tocão aí pra dentro. É?
This is a toca, a cave. The diamond hunters used it as a makeshift shelter. They'd live here for weeks on end.
Wow, it's really neat. Oh, I need a light, though. Wow. Oh.
O já vem do garimpo molhado.
These galleries wear a man down. Prospecting for diamonds means working in the damp. When you get over 40, you're finished.
Batendo as botas. Você sabe debaixo de
The
pedra.
stones are cold, you know. And there are a lot of mosquitoes, so we always had to have a fire going.
Eu penso no Che que os Rambi que já
I think of all the others who used to live this life
que já partiu dessa
and who are now gone.
Que lembra dos
I
passados,
think about the past,
dos antepassados,
the old-timers.
que os garimpeiros usavam naquelas épocas.
Back then in the diamond sites, everyone would get together on Saturdays around a big pot of feijoada,
Não bater, você sabe como é.
and we'd all eat
Todo
together.
mundo sentava ali, comia tudo junto.
We were all friends.
Amizadão para poder descer pro comércio.
I'm good at finding things. So I would have really loved to have been a miner. When I first came here, that's all I ever did. Not mining, but I went out in the hills with the old miners and learned about the geology of the area, how they worked the mines, where they lived, how they lived. That's all I ever did here for years, was just walk around with the miners. It was kind of like watching the old black and white movies from my childhood in the far west with the miners and their lifestyle up in the hills. The sons of the miners, the sons of the hunters who lived exploiting directly to, hunting game and digging out diamonds and setting fire to everything. Now their sons are guides, and they're green, and they have taken on the banner of conservation and protection. So now their sons are putting out the fires and picking up the garbage and protecting nature. So in one generation, it turned 180 degrees from direct exploitation to indirect use and protection of the area.
Every morning, Roy hikes the national park to feel the history of the Chapada Diamantina beneath his feet. In a few years, the locals will remember this American who traveled from New York and happened onto this place. They'll probably say they'd see him head off into the mountains every day. The ones that knew him will be able to tell how the life of this quiet American was a story of love at first sight between a man and nature.
We could say the spirits of the hills welcome me, and I welcome them, and we have a good relationship. And it's just a really nice place to live, to be in harmony with, to help. I do what I can to protect the hills, and the hills do what they can to protect me. So it's a pretty good relationship, all right? And just a really nice place. And I hope I can keep doing this.